You are lazy and worthless. Don't stop staring.
I'm trying. I'm so tired.
The day Mama Chinedu arrived at the small compound in Akaha village, the chickens stopped laying eggs. Nobody noticed it at first, but Adise did. She had gone to collect eggs from the coop behind the mud house that morning. Her wrapper tied firmly around her waist, only to find the nests empty. The hens clucked nervously, pacing back and forth as if something had frightened them. Adise frowned, her heart sinking just a little. It was a bad sign, her grandmother would have said. Animals always knew when trouble was coming. And trouble had definitely come in the form of her new mother-in-law. Mama Chinedu was a tall, heavy woman with a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile many years ago. Her wrapper was expensive, her blouse starched so stiff it crinkled when she moved, and she wore a big, colorful head tie that made her look even taller and more frightening. When she stepped out of the old bus that had brought her from the city, she looked around the village with her nose wrinkled, as if she smelled something rotten. Adise had rushed forward with her husband, Chinedu, to greet her properly. They knelt down in the red dust, greeting her with respect the way tradition demanded. But Mama Chinedu barely looked at them. She just made a sound in her throat like she had swallowed something bitter and walked past them into the house. That was 3 days ago, and since then, life in the little compound had become like living with a thundercloud that refused to rain. Adise was a gentle girl of 19, with smooth dark skin and kind eyes that always seemed to be smiling. She had married Chinedu 6 months ago, and those had been the happiest 6 months of her life. Chinedu was a good man who worked hard on his small farm, growing cassava and yams. He was patient and funny, and he loved Adise with his whole heart. Their little mud house might have been small, with just 2 rooms and a tiny kitchen outside, but it had been filled with laughter and love, until Mama Chinedu came. Now every morning began with complaints. The porridge was too watery. The room was too hot. The roosters were too loud. The village was too backward. Nothing Adise did was right in her mother-in-law's eyes. On the 4th morning, Adise woke up before dawn as usual to start preparing breakfast. She swept the compound carefully, making sure not a single leaf remained on the ground. She fetched water from the stream, balancing the clay pot on her head as she walked carefully back home. She started a fire and began to cook yam porridge, adding palm oil, crayfish and vegetables, making it exactly the way Chinedu liked it. But when she served it to Mama Chinedu, the older woman took one look at the bowl and pushed it away. "What is this nonsense you have brought me?" she said loudly, her voice cutting through the quiet morning like a knife. "Is this how you plan to kill me? With this tasteless food?" Adise felt her cheeks burn with shame. She glanced at Chinedu, who was sitting at the small wooden table, looking uncomfortable. He opened his mouth to speak, but his mother's sharp eyes turned to him. "Ooh, you have nothing to say. You will watch your wife disrespect your mother like this." Chinedu looked down at his food. Adise felt her heart squeeze painfully in her chest. She knew he was caught between them, loving them both but not knowing how to keep peace. He was a good son who respected his mother, but he also loved his wife deeply. The confusion and pain on his face made Adise's heart ache even more. She didn't want to make him choose between them. That wouldn't be fair to anyone. So she swallowed her hurt and quietly took the bowl away, blinking back the tears that threatened to fall. "I will make something else, Mama," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Mama Chinedu just grunted and looked away, waving her hand dismissively as if Adise was nothing more than an annoying fly buzzing around her head. As the days passed, things got worse. Mama Chinedu found fault with everything. When Adise washed clothes, they weren't clean enough. When she swept the compound, she missed spots. When she cooked, the food was either too salty or not salty enough. The older woman would sit in the only comfortable chair in the house, fanning herself and calling out orders like a queen. Adise, bring me water. Adise, my feet hurt. Come and massage them. Adise, this house smells. Go and sweep again. The young wife obeyed every command, trying her best to please her mother-in-law. But nothing worked. Mama Chinedu's eyes followed her everywhere, cold and watchful, like a hawk watching a mouse. The other women in the village began to notice. Adise's best friend, Ngozi, came to visit one afternoon and found Adise sitting behind the house, crying quietly as she peeled cassava. The pile of peeled cassava beside her was growing, but so were the tears on her cheeks. "Eneni, what is wrong?" Ngozi asked, sitting down beside her in the dust. She put her arm around Adise's shoulders, offering the comfort of friendship. Adise wiped her tears quickly, embarrassed to be caught crying. "It's nothing. Don't lie to me. Is it that your mother-in-law? The whole village is talking about how she treats you. Even Mama Obi at the market was saying she saw her shouting at you yesterday." Adise's shoulders slumped. The fact that her troubles were now village gossip made everything feel worse. "I don't know what to do, Ngozi. Nothing I do is right. She hates me. Sometimes I wonder if I did something terrible in my past life to deserve this treatment." Ngozi squeezed her friend's hand tightly. "Don't say such things. You are a good person with a kind heart. This is not your fault. Be patient, my sister. These things have a way of working themselves out. Just keep doing your best and pray. God sees everything that is happening." But Adise didn't know how much more patience she had left. That night something strange happened. Adise woke up suddenly in the darkness, her heart pounding. She didn't know what had woken her, but she felt uneasy. Beside her, Chinedu was snoring softly. She lay still for a moment, listening to the night sounds, the crickets chirping, a dog barking in the distance. Then she heard it. Footsteps outside. Slowly, quietly, Adise sat up. Through the small window, she could see a light moving in the compound. Someone was outside with a lantern. Her breath caught in her throat. Who would be walking around at this time of night? She got up carefully, trying not to wake Chinedu, and crept to the window. What she saw made her freeze in shock. It was Mama Chinedu. The older woman was walking around the compound in her nightgown, carrying a small lantern. But that wasn't the strangest part. She was talking to herself, or maybe to someone Adise couldn't see. And she was sprinkling something on the ground, white powder that looked like salt or ash. Adise's grandmother had told her stories about such things. About people who did bad things in the night, who used dark powers to harm others. Her heart started beating so fast she thought it might jump out of her chest. Mama Chinedu walked all around the house, sprinkling the powder and muttering words Adise couldn't hear. Then she stopped right in front of the chicken coop. She bent down, still talking to herself, and sprinkled more powder there. The next morning, 3 of their chickens were dead. Chinedu found them when he went out at dawn. He came back to the house looking confused and worried. "I don't understand," he said to Adise. "The chickens were fine yesterday. Now 3 of them are just dead. No marks, no signs of sickness. Just dead." Adise felt cold all over, but she didn't tell him what she had seen. Who would believe her? And what if she was wrong? What if Mama Chinedu had just been unable to sleep and was walking around? Maybe the powder was something innocent. Maybe the chickens dying was just a coincidence. But deep in her heart, she knew it wasn't. The next few days were even worse. Small things started going wrong in the house. The pot of soup Adise cooked went sour overnight, even though it was fresh. The water jar cracked for no reason, spilling water everywhere. Adise found cockroaches in the gharry, even though she had just checked it the day before and it was clean. And through it all, Mama Chinedu watched with those cold eyes, a tiny smile sometimes playing at the corners of her mouth. One evening, Chinedu came home from the farm looking terrible. His head was pounding with pain, he said, and his body felt weak. His face was pale, and sweat covered his forehead even though the evening was cool. Adise made him lie down immediately and placed a cool cloth on her forehead, her hands shaking with worry. Her mind raced with terrible thoughts. What if it was malaria? What if it was something worse? He had always been strong and healthy, never falling sick even during the rainy season when many people caught fever. What was happening to her beloved husband? Maybe you should go to the chemist in town tomorrow, she suggested, trying to keep her voice calm even though fear was gripping her heart. Brother Emeka can take you on his motorcycle. But Mama Chinedu, who had been sitting in her chair watching the whole scene with those hawk-like eyes of hers, spoke up loudly. Chemist. It is this useless wife of yours that is making you sick with her bad cooking. That is why I told you not to marry a girl from this backward village. She probably doesn't even know how to keep a house clean. Adise bit her lip so hard she tasted blood. But she didn't say anything. She just continued taking care of her husband. That night, she woke up again to strange sounds. This time, she was determined to see exactly what Mama Chinedu was doing. She waited until she heard the footsteps outside. Then very carefully she followed. She hid behind the banana trees at the edge of the compound, watching as Mama Chinedu did the same thing as before. But this time, Adise was close enough to hear the words the older woman was saying. This foolish girl thinks she can take my son from me, Mama Chinedu muttered as she sprinkled the powder. She thinks she can make him forget his own mother. But I will show her. I will make her life so miserable she will run away. Then my son will come back home with me to the city where he belongs. Adise's hand flew to her mouth to stop herself from gasping. So it was true. Mama Chinedu was trying to destroy her marriage. But why? What had Adise done except love her husband and try to be a good daughter-in-law? The next morning, Adise knew she had to do something. But what? If she told Chinedu what she had seen, would he believe her? He loved his mother. He would be torn between believing his wife and thinking she was lying about his mother. She decided to visit Mama Nena, the oldest woman in the village. Mama Nena was wise and had seen many things in her long life. Wars, famines, celebrations, and sorrows. People came to her from all over the village when they had problems they couldn't solve. She knew about medicines from plants, about settling disputes between families, and about matters of the heart. Surely she would know what to do about this situation with Mama Chinedu. The old woman's compound was at the edge of the village, surrounded by tall trees that provided shade and made the place feel peaceful and separate from the busy village life. Mama Nena herself was tiny and wrinkled like a dried fruit, but her eyes were sharp and bright, missing nothing. She was sitting on a low stool under her favorite tree, sorting through some dried herbs, when Adise arrived. She listened carefully as Adise told her everything. About Mama Chinedu's behavior, about the constant criticism and impossible demands, about the things she had seen at night with the powder and the strange words, about the words she had overheard that revealed her mother-in-law's true intentions. Adise's voice shook as she spoke, and sometimes she had to stop to wipe away tears. When Adise finished, Mama Nena was quiet for a long time. Then she sighed deeply. My child, she said, what you have told me is serious, but you must be very careful. You cannot fight this woman with anger or by telling everyone what she is doing. That will only make things worse. Then what should I do, Mama? Adise asked desperately. Mama Nena smiled, a small, knowing smile. You must be smart. You must be patient. And you must show this woman something she does not expect. What is that? Love, Mama Nena said simply. Real love, not pretend. You must show her genuine kindness, even when she is cruel. You must do it in a way that others can see. And most importantly, you must pray. Sometimes, the only thing that can change a hard heart is seeing true goodness. Adise wasn't sure she understood, but she trusted Mama Nena, so she went home determined to try. The next morning, instead of just doing the minimum for Mama Chinedu, Adise went beyond. She woke up extra early and made her mother-in-law's favorite breakfast, akara and pap, which she had learned about by quietly asking Chinedu. She served it with a genuine smile. Mama Chinedu looked surprised but said nothing. At midday, when the sun was hot and Mama Chinedu was sitting under the mango tree fanning herself, Adise brought her cool water and asked if her feet hurt, offering to massage them without being asked. Mama Chinedu looked at her suspiciously but allowed it. In the evening, Adise asked her mother-in-law to teach her how to tie her head tie in the fancy style that women wore in the city. Mama Chinedu loved fashion and couldn't resist showing off her skills. For the first time, Adise saw a flicker of pleasure in the older woman's eyes. Adise kept this up day after day. She complimented Mama Chinedu's clothing. She asked for advice on cooking. She listened when the older woman talked about her life in the city. And through it all, she remained genuinely kind, even when Mama Chinedu was still harsh. Slowly, very slowly, something began to change. Mama Chinedu started criticizing less. She began to show Adise how she liked things done instead of just complaining. Once, Adise even heard her telling someone in the village that her daughter-in-law was not completely useless. But the real change came 2 weeks later. Adise had gone to the market to buy vegetables. On her way back, she saw Mama Chinedu sitting by the roadside, looking distressed. The older woman's face was twisted in pain, and she was holding her stomach. Adise didn't hesitate. She dropped her basket and ran to her mother-in-law's side. "Mama, what's wrong?" "My stomach," Mama Chinedu gasped. "The pain is so sharp." Adise looked around frantically. They were far from home, and Mama Chinedu was too heavy for her to carry. But there was a small clinic nearby. Without thinking twice, Adise flagged down a passing motorcycle and helped her mother-in-law onto it. She climbed on behind her, holding Mama Chinedu steady, and they rode to the clinic. At the clinic, the nurse said Mama Chinedu had a stomach infection and needed medicine immediately. Adise used all the money she had been saving, money she was planning to use to buy a new wrapper for herself, to pay for the medicine and the treatment. She stayed by Mama Chinedu's side the whole time, wiping her forehead when she was hot, holding her hand when the pain was bad, making sure she took her medicine on time. When they finally got home that evening, Chinedu was frantic with worry. But when he heard what had happened and what Adise had done, his eyes filled with tears of gratitude and love for his wife. That night, something unexpected happened. Mama Chinedu called Adise to her room. The young woman went nervously, not knowing what to expect. But when she entered, she found her mother-in-law sitting on the bed, looking smaller somehow, and sadder than Adise had ever seen her. "Sit down," Mama Chinedu said quietly. Adise sat. For a long moment, Mama Chinedu said nothing. Then, slowly, words began to come out. "I have not been a good mother-in-law to you," she said, not looking at Adise. "I have been cruel and harsh. I have tried to make you unhappy." Adise's heart pounded, but she remained quiet, letting the older woman speak. "You see," Mama Chinedu continued, her voice breaking slightly, "Chinedu is my only son. His father died when he was young, and I raised him alone. I worked so hard, did everything for him. When he said he wanted to marry you and stay in this village instead of coming to live with me in the city, I felt like he was choosing you over me. Like I was losing my son." Tears started rolling down Mama Chinedu's cheeks. "I was angry and hurt. So I decided to make your life miserable, to make you leave so he would come back to me. I even did some bad things at night, trying to bring bad luck to your house. I am not proud of it." Adise felt tears in her own eyes now. "But today," Mama Chinedu said, finally looking at Adise, "when I was sick and in pain, you didn't leave me. You didn't think about revenge or about how badly I had treated you. You just helped me. You spent your own money on me. You cared for me like I was your own mother. I saw something in you today that I have not seen in a long time. True goodness. And I realized something." "What is that, Mama?" Adise asked softly. "That I have not lost my son. I have gained a daughter. If I had tried to see it before, I would have known that you are not taking Chinedu away from me. You are just loving him the way he deserves to be loved. And there is room for both of us in his heart." Mama Chinedu reached out and took Adise's hand. "Please forgive me, my daughter," she said, using the word daughter for the first time. "I have been a wicked mother-in-law. But if you can find it in your heart to forgive this foolish old woman, I promise I will try to be better." Adise couldn't hold back her tears anymore. They flowed freely as she moved forward and hugged her mother-in-law. "I forgive you, Mama," she said. "I forgive you." They stayed like that for a long time, crying together, healing together. From that day forward, everything changed. Mama Chinedu became like a real mother to Adise. She taught her the special recipes she had learned over the years. She showed her how to manage money better. She even defended Adise when other women in the village tried to gossip. One morning, Adise went to check the chicken coop and found it full of eggs again. She smiled, remembering what her grandmother had said about animals knowing when trouble was coming. Perhaps they also knew when trouble was leaving. The three of them, Chinedu, Adise, and Mama Chinedu, became a real family. They laughed together, worked together, and supported each other. When Mama Chinedu eventually had to return to the city for work, she left with hugs and promises to visit often. And she kept those promises. A year later, when Adise gave birth to a baby girl, Mama Chinedu came immediately. She held her granddaughter with tears of joy running down her face. "What will you name her?" she asked. Adise and Chinedu looked at each other and smiled. "Nena," they said together. "After the wise woman who taught us that love and patience can change everything." Mama Chinedu nodded, understanding. She looked at Adise with eyes full of love and respect. "You are stronger than I ever was," she said to her daughter-in-law. "You taught this stubborn old woman that wickedness only brings misery, but kindness brings joy. Thank you for not giving up on me." As the years passed, the story of Mama Chinedu and Adise became famous in Akaha village. Mothers would tell it to their daughters, and daughters-in-law would remember it when times were hard. It became a reminder that even the hardest hearts can soften, that love is stronger than wickedness, and that patience and kindness can win battles that anger and fighting never could. And in that small compound in Akaha village, where the chickens laid eggs again and the garden bloomed with vegetables, a family lived in peace and love, proof that even the wickedest mother-in-law could become the best grandmother in the world.